Live from the Unchained TV headquarters in Los Angeles, California, this is Truth Files with Jane Velez-Mitchell. Get in touch during the show on socials. And make sure you don't miss any of Unchained TV's award-winning programs by downloading the app for your phone, tablet, or smart TV. And now with the headlines, it's Jane Velez-Mitchell.
Welcome to Truth Files with me, Jane Velez-Mitchell. We are live across social media as well as on our streaming network. I hope you watch, comment, share out. Let's solve all the world's problems together. I am so excited today to have an extraordinary creative man, Tom Neff, co-founder of the documentary channel. And we here at Unchained TV are very honored that the documentary channel has agreed to do a strategic partnership with Unchained TV, whereby some of our top documentaries will now also be on the documentary channel. This is going to open up this important information, the crucial messages of these documentaries to millions more people. One of them is Ending Real Fur, an award-winning documentary. So super excited and honored to be collaborating with the documentary channel. And let's introduce the man behind it all, along with his partner who is traveling right now, Tom Neff. Tell us, sir, what is the mission of the documentary channel?
Well, Jane, thank you for having me. And we are really thrilled and honored to be able to feature Unchained documentaries on our network. So we look forward to a really long collaboration and partnership. So again, thank you. You know, the documentary channel is, the mission is very clear. We want to show the best documentaries out there to as many viewers as possible. We want to support the documentary industry, documentary filmmakers, and documentary films. And so it's really those three things: show the best films, support documentaries, support the documentary filmmaker and the films, and support the industry. And other than that, we have no agenda other than to just show the best films, and we're trying to get them to people as inexpensively as possible. You know, now you can watch them for $1.99 for a year. Please sign up at documentarychannel.com. And we have over, 165 documentaries available, and so thrilled to have Unchained TV's documentaries to air, because these are documentaries that fall through the cracks. They're great documentaries, but people don't see them. And they don't see them because if you're a documentary filmmaker and your film doesn't get on Netflix, Showtime, HBO, Hulu, Apple, you can kind of tick them off. You're kind of out of luck. And the whole idea of the documentary channel was to give these films and filmmakers a voice.
Absolutely. And I'm going to sign up because, wow, what a deal. Less than $2 for the entire year. This is a limited time only, 50% lifetime discount. So this is a new channel. And when we join up, we become founding members. Is that correct?
That is exactly correct, because right now at documentarychannel.com, anyone can go, just sign up at documentarychannel.com. We do have an app for your phone for Apple and iOS. Just go to Documentary Channel and download the app so you can watch it on mobile. But the whole idea is to see these films anywhere, any place, anytime. And I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second, but right now it's a beta site, meaning that there are about 165 films up there. We're out raising the money for the full-blown site. And when that happens, we'll license over 1,000 documentaries a year. So wow. The whole idea is that we feel that the independent documentary audience is underserved and that there is an audience out there. And so we really need people to sign up to help prove that people will watch independent documentaries, that yes, there's a need for this sort of thing. $2 is a really nominal fee. And because investors, it's a very difficult time in the industry. Right now, investors say, well, gee, you have a couple of hundred films on Hulu, you have a couple of hundred films on Netflix or Amazon. Isn't that enough? And the answer is no, just because those are very limited. They tend to be very limited in the types of documentaries they show, the themes and so forth.
And let me jump in for a second and show, I'm going to add to the stage your incredible network, because I have to say, I'm going to scroll through a little bit. We obviously, Unchained TV, there's Countdown to Year Zero, front and center. I'm thrilled and honored. And this is a very important documentary that I did, won more than a dozen awards, about how we have to transition to a plant-based food system soon, or we're going to have an ecological collapse. So I urge everybody to watch it. But there are plenty of other films, your passions, the Me Too, the movement. I want to watch that. I'm very interested in watching that. Obviously, I'm a supporter of Me Too. There you see the Unchained TV category, and very excited to have that Unchained TV category. Then there's festivals. There's a bunch of festivals that you showcase the key films from. And also films that have to do with history. Jack Kerouac, King of the Beats. So there's so much here that you won't get on, let's say, a Netflix or an Amazon Prime. And that's what I find really interesting about it. So I'd like to go back to why that's happening. Why is it that issues, there's a lot of causey films that you have. Why is it that films about issues are not getting on the big streamers as much anymore, Tom?
Well, there are going to be lots of reasons. My own thoughts on this are that when you look at the big streamers, the Netflix, the Hulu, the Apples, their brand is not documentaries. They're basically scripted entertainment. Nothing wrong with that. But if you think of Netflix, you don't think of documentaries. Sure, you can watch documentaries on there. They have a couple of them, and they're good. I'm never going to diss any documentary out there. But clearly, Netflix's brand is more historical entertainment, very high end. They're have always gone after HBO. HBO, same sort of thing. You can tick them off. Apple. In other words, the brand of those networks is not documentaries. So they realize that there is an audience for documentaries out there. So they don't want to ignore it. So they're going to feed it a little bit, enough to keep people kind of happy and to say, okay, see, you can watch some documentaries. And of course, Netflix has unlimited dollars, so they can get whatever documentary they want. And they say, well, that's enough. And but you're exactly right. They tend to go for, and I've talked to distributors about this, 4 basic categories. They want, celebrity, bios, sports, and crime. And if your doc doesn't fit in one of those 4 categories, thank you very much, goodbye. And also the business model of the majors has very much gone toward full acquisition and their own productions. So Netflix, perfect example. They did the Michael J. Fox film, great documentary, but they basically did it themselves or paid $5 million for it. And Michael J. Fox, celebrity, it gets their views and it satisfies their audience. But I don't think anyone signed up for Netflix saying, oh, gee, I want to watch documentaries. Let me sign up for Netflix. So it's a brand thing. Documentary Channel, on the other hand, is dedicated to documentaries. We're the only, major network out there totally dedicated to docs. And we started out on the linear networks in cable. And, cable is basically going away and have moved towards streaming. And we think there's an audience there. And we get pushback I've had investors say, "Gee, I can watch 200 or 300 documentaries on, Netflix or Apple or Hulu. Isn't that enough?" And my reply to that would be, it'd be like saying, "Gee, I have a bookshelf behind me. It's got 8 shelves, got full of books, great books, great books. Every single book is fantastic. What do we need the New York Public Library for?" And well, because there are a lot of other books out there. And I think one of the great things about Documentary Channel is that we have 32 categories of types of films we'll see. Sports, space, social issues, women, international law, science, environment, of course, ecology, crime, nothing wrong with that, food, finance. So we have all sorts of categories. And we will also show short documentaries. They're very difficult to see anyplace. If you look at all the majors, they really are only interested in feature documentaries. They'll have some short documentaries, maybe Oscar docs. But in general, all of these documentaries, as we would say, hit the floor. And there's no venue for them. There's no place to go. And that's the entire purpose of the Documentary Channel.
I'd like to say, when you're doing that list, add plant-based and cruelty-free to the list. And let's play a little clip from one of the Unchained TV documentaries that you're running on the Documentary Channel.
My name is Taimur Chaudhary. I went undercover to investigate the fur trade. What I discovered will shock you to your core.
Is that a polar bear? Are they on the endangered list?
The story of how I ended up here is inseparable from the making of this film. My life consisted of fashion shows, having parties, but something was wrong. Something was missing in my life. I found myself wondering how much cruelty is hidden behind all our fashion fur.
If consumers knew the truth about these practices, would never say that's a humane way to kill animals, not in a million years.
Fur is a relic of a cruel and uninformed age.
I thought to myself, you're just too small. How are you going to make that change?
How can people get involved in this movement?
It's now time for Canada to end the cruel and dangerous practice of commercial fur farming, and that is exactly what this legislation will do.
And that film, which we're so excited it's running on the Documentary Channel, has actually been instrumental in getting legislative change very close to being approved in Canada. So it's also a very thriller type film where the protagonist starts out as this playboy, this rich playboy. And what he finds out is that the fur collar he's wearing is made of dog fur, and he loves his dog, and he flips out. And you're going to have to watch the rest of it to get the full story. But there's a perfect example, Tom, of a film that is so important. Millions of animals are being killed still. People think it's passé because most of the big brands, the big luxury brands, have opted out of fur, but it's still a huge industry and it doesn't get the coverage. So would that be exhibit A of why the Documentary Channel is important?
Well, absolutely. And let me also add, just in that short clip, how visual it was. I mean, documentaries, they're long past the age of the, old professor sitting in front of the blackboard with a guitar in the background. Documentaries are visual, they're entertaining, they're engaging, and they really, they capture reality. And honestly, I think we've seen that reality is a lot stranger than fiction these days. And one of the I'd say brand statements of documentary is that truth takes a front seat at the Documentary Channel. In other words, we just show great docs, and we're neither right nor left. We think people have something to say. We think that voice should be heard. And the idea is that when you come to the Documentary Channel, you're going to see truth. You're not going to see propaganda. You're not going to see falsely generated images and so forth. So I think there's an audience. I think people are are wanting truth these days. I think truth is becoming harder and harder to find. And so I'm convinced that there is a big audience for these types of documentaries. We can hopefully, be a footprint for people. We can't, as I said, I think there's a crisis going on in the documentary industry. And that is that you have the ability to make very high quality films with digital and so forth. And, everything's on a computer nowadays, which would have cost tens of thousands of dollars to have done in film. When I'm a documentary filmmaker myself, when I first started doing documentaries, they were shot on 16 millimeter film. And, it's basically, for anyone who knows anything about 16 millimeter film, it's about $450 for 10 minutes. And so that adds up. Nowadays, you can shoot very high quality films for very, very reasonable. So you're getting more films made, and yet there are fewer outlets for them. And so it's a crisis, I think, in that where do these filmmakers go? And documentary channel, we will pay a real license fee. We're out raising our permanent funding, and the whole idea is to create an engine where we're the home of the documentary, where people can come and they can be confident they're going to see the very best documentaries out there. They're going to be curated. The problem is not finding documentaries. The problem is finding the best documentaries. And just looking at all these, the incredible variety of topics of these films in front of you. Oscar winning, Oscar nominated, Emmy winning, Emmy nominated. And I come from the documentary industry. I'm a documentary filmmaker myself. There's several of these films you're strolling by. They're my films. Beatrice Wood, Mama of Dada is my film. Frederick Remington is my film. Louise Dahl-Wolf is my film. So, I come from the documentary world and I understand it. So I think we can be a breath of fresh air in the industry.
Well, especially the very first. Oh, it went away, but one of the first ones. This looks very interesting as well. But you had a film about the women of Afghanistan. I mean, that's Exhibit A of something that we really need to talk about, and yet it isn't being talked about. That's really sad. There are women suffering right now in Afghanistan, and it seems like the world's moved on to discuss something else. How important is it from a political standpoint? I know you're not partisan politics in your selection. Right. Maybe you are, I don't know, but how important is it from a political standpoint to get some of these crucial issues out? The reason I ask that is that when it comes to the vegan movement, there is basically a blackout from the mainstream media. And the reason is, look at the advertisers, the very people that are promoting the products that we're asking people to give up. And so I was wondering what your thoughts on that are.
Well, I think that's the real issue of the market, coming up to butts with the content. And what's great about Documentary Channel is that we have no axe to grind. Our revenue will be from subscriptions, and we don't show ads. And so all I care is that the film's good. If the film's good, we'll show it. And some are going to be left-leaning, some are going to be right-leaning. We let the audience decide for themselves. And it is no question that the majors avoid controversy. They tend to go for the broadest public response. They have tens and millions of subscribers. Documentary Channel, we're hoping that in 5 years we can get to 2.5 million subscribers, and I think that's very doable. And if we do that, there is a lot of money there in terms of licensing, in terms of creating original productions, which we definitely want to do and encourage, and to show these films and pay the documentary filmmakers a decent license fee. It's such an issue, even getting into festivals these days. To give you an example, Sundance this last year had about 1,700, a little over 1,745 people who submitted documentaries. Out of those 1,700, they showed 40. And out of those 40, probably, the goal in life of any documentary filmmaker is, yes, great to show it at the festival. But what they really want is to find a distributor, someone who will get their film out there. And out of those 40, how many got deals? 4. So that is a very discouraging trend, and it's not unusual for any festival. That is 1.5 to 3 or 4% of those documentaries submitted, get accepted. And I get that some may not deserve it, but I just can't believe that there's 97% of them that aren't worth seeing. And so this is a crisis then.
Well, that's why we're so thrilled here at Unchained TV to be having this strategic partnership with you, where you're taking some of our films, our top films, and putting them on your network. And here's another one that I think everybody should see. Check it out.
Mr. Chagganlal Joshi, my grandfather, a freedom fighter who walked with Mahatma Gandhi side by side for the Salt March. They together got us freedom. They fought for human rights. And I am fighting for the animals. If he could do it, why can't I?
I am a software engineer by profession, a mountaineer by passion, and a vegan by compassion. Veganism gave me an edge in mental peace and mental focus.
Meat consumption has tripled in the last 17-18 years. So our population has not tripled. Our milk production has doubled, and we are consuming way too much dairy.
If we continue doing this, deploying technology to find the last remaining animals and kill them, if we go to every last remaining forest and cut it to graze animals for livestock, we're going to kill everything.
We don't want to harm anyone. So why do we want to eat a diet that harms us, harms the animals, harms the environment?
So that is a life-saving, planet-saving message. Oxford University recently did a study that was published in the New York Times that shows that heavy meat eaters, which is most Americans, can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions footprint by 75%. That's offering a climate solution right there, but good luck getting that message on mainstream media. So again, I think it's absolutely fabulous that you are putting it on your channel, because our whole goal is to get past the echo chamber of people who already agree with us and get to those people who could use this life-saving, planet-saving information.
Absolutely. It's an educational thing. You're trying to expose people to new ideas and new thoughts, and we're not going to preach at you. Documentaries have a point of view, absolutely, and you can agree with the point of view or not agree with the point of view. But I think key is to know that at least the information you're getting is truthful and real. Whether you like it, disagree with it, agree with it, that's each individual's own choice. But our mission is to show the documentary. And I think the audience is smart. I think they can make their own choice. And documentaries can change the world. That's one of the reasons I got into documentaries. I think you could have sponsored documentaries by major companies, as long as they don't have a final cut or influence over the content. Why not have them? They've got money. Have them give some of these documentary filmmakers a chance to make the films they want. So what we can offer is the venue. Often a filmmaker will say, gee, we want to make a film on XYZ. And the funder might say, okay, if we give you, $50,000 to make your documentary, where will it go? And it's a little bit of a tough road to say, well, we're going to get it into festivals, and how many get into festivals? Well, it's 1.5% to 4, and how many of those get picked up? Well, 10% of those get picked up, and whereas with the documentary channel, you could say, well, we have a license with the documentary channel. Once the film is done, the documentary channel will air the film, and so there's a venue. And that this can encourage production, can encourage the sponsor, the money to contribute. Documentaries cost money. That's okay. People need to live. People need to make a living. Why should they be free? And we think that there's value in them. And so I really please encourage your viewers, if you want to help documentaries, sign up for the documentary channel. Because
okay, well, guess what? We already have Debbie has subscribed, so we've got at least one subscriber. There we go.
Debbie, you go, girl.
Yeah. I have a couple of quick questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. But do you mostly deal with individual filmmakers, or do you deal with the distribution companies themselves?
Oh, that's a great question. Both. And in fact, you can go to about.documentarychannel.com and submit your films. We will deal with the individual filmmaker. We, of course, deal with distributors too, but we're glad to deal with the individual. And so the idea is to get the film out there, and we try to be distributor friendly. For example, a lot of distributors will say, well, you have to have E&O insurance before we'll even look at it. We wouldn't have that attitude. And in fact, we would tend to give people a kind of a write-off for the E&O insurance, just because otherwise it eats up all their fees. So we are very filmmaker friendly. We try to be audience friendly and show all different types of films, long, shorts, classics, cutting edge films. There's something there for everyone. And docs are fun.
They are. And the great thing about it is you learn something. You don't just walk away with a bunch of nonsense in your head after it's over. I love documentaries, and I am definitely signing up. I think it's exciting. And for less than $2 a year for the first year, and then you become a founding member, that sounds like a great deal. So I want to say thank you so much for I just want to thank you for being a part of this process, for being willing to share our crucial films. And I say crucial because they are crucial, because, there's something called the 80-20 rule, 20% of the inputs causing 80% of the outcomes. When you look at industrialized animal agriculture, that is most biomass, more than 60% of total biomass on this planet is livestock, where we've reduced wildlife biomass to 4%, and it's going down, down, down. When it's zero, that's hence the film Countdown to Year Zero, we're going to have an ecological collapse, because wildlife is essential. Good percentage of the bites of food that humans take depend upon pollination. So we're playing with fire with the industrialization of animal agriculture, and we are desperate to get this solution to the environmental crisis and the healthcare crisis, with 2/3 of Americans overweight or obese, and heart disease, which is largely preventable with a plant-based diet for so many reasons. We're just urging people to check out this content. So I hope that everybody signs up to the documentary channel, and I hope that you check out those films. And while you're doing that, I want to say thanks again, Tom. I know you're a busy man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course.
And we're really thrilled to show your documentaries. We look forward to a long partnership. And these are the types of docs we want to show. And hey, if you're in the audience out there, you don't have to change your whole life. Just change a little bit of it. Just change your corner. And,
exactly. Thank you. And while we're at promotion, please also watch Unchained TV, and we're the world's only plant-based nonprofit streaming network. You can just go to UnchainedTV. Unchained.tv. It's very easy to watch.
So it's a vegan Netflix. Okay, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I love Unchained TV.
Unchained TV. Your life will change. It's just that easy.
Unchained TV has all sorts of content for everybody.
Unchained TV changed my life.
Unchained TV is crushing it.
I love Unchained TV. Unchained TV is my go-to.
Unchained TV. Who knew?
Unchained.